Hey there, everybody. Welcome back to the channel. I'm checking in with you on this Wednesday. Man, what a day we had yesterday. The birthright citizenship decision came down. Unbelievable in terms of the split in the court with that, right? The way that it should have been based on that issue. But okay, be that as it may, it held. And Spirit said that it was going to hold. So I'm glad for the confirmation of that. Colorado primaries yesterday, I did the reading on that as well. Spirit said it wasn't going to be a clean sweep for progressives and the Democratic Socialists, but that there was going to be enough of a statement made to prove that this is not some arbitrary phenomenon coming out of, the East Coast or the West Coast, these larger metropolitan cities, that this is a nationwide situation that is growing by the day. This is expressing the will of the people for change within, not just against this regime and the Republicans, but even within the Democratic Party. So thank you for hanging in there with me on that. And it was good to see that we got some interesting upsets in Colorado yesterday. Keep it going. Keep it going. The Thomas Massie resolution. So I talked about that yesterday. Did not see that passing, and apparently it got put on the floor and got passed almost like with a unanimous vote. So, and for those of you who may have missed that taping, this is in reference to a resolution that Thomas Massie out of Kentucky got some issues with, against Trump and company based on being ousted essentially as of January. He's going to have to make a move out of there, out of Congress. But he put forth this resolution to produce a list of names and settlement amounts that have been paid on the taxpayer dime to settle sexual misconduct claims by members of Congress. And it went forward. Whoa, I didn't see that happening so quickly, but you know what? Okay, so looks like that's coming down the pike. And remember, I did a reading a few days ago about July. July being just this incredible month where, because of planet for astrology and planetary reasons, we're going to just, information's going to be like pow, 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 things coming out. So this list of names, which Congress people and how much money was paid to who, and well, maybe not to who, we may not learn that, but why? Yeah, that Thomas Massie thing took off. So let's see what happens with that. All right, for today, you all, I want to take a look at Kamala Harris. Spirit is on me about Kamala Harris. And a comeback for 2028. Here's what's really interesting about that, talking about the progressive left, right? And this movement that we're seeing, and then it can no longer be business as usual. We know that there were the so-called autopsy that the DNC didn't want to release about what happened in 2024 and why Kamala lost. But an issue that's been raised over and over again is the stance that she took or did not take relative to Gaza and relative to the Palestinians, right? So we understand that Kamala, in doing her work in the background to potentially mount another run for 2028, has been meeting with Zohran Mamdani out of New York, and has been meeting with other progressives. So wondering if she is in fact prepared to move further left to get on board with the progressive movement and the changes that we're seeing. That's the first thing that I want to look at today. Spirit, is Kamala Harris mounting a comeback for another campaign run, presidential bid in 2028 by moving further left? Is she aligning herself? Will she align herself with this progressive movement that's catching fire in the Democratic Party? A new era. Some people are calling it the Democratic Tea Party, right? Let's see. We got Judgment coming at the bottom of the deck. Not going to ignore that. An awareness, a second chance. This is a beautiful indication. Thank you, Spirit. Judgment is often called a card of second chances because it's a card where lessons have been learned. There's a different awareness that you're bringing to the situation. Spirit, is Kamala Harris going to move further left? Are we going to see her take a different stance on Palestine, the Five of Cups, the disappointment that she realizes that she may have caused by doing the best, absolutely best, no criticism here, no shade, 107 days but recognizing what needs to get adjusted. So she understands the disappointment. The Queen of Swords, I usually see her as more pentacles, but I think this is reflecting her decision making, swords, decision making around what she's going to need to do and adjustments that need to be made in order to launch her 2028 campaign. Spirit, are we going to see her move in that progressive direction? The Eight of Wands, if that ain't movement, I don't know what is. I'll show it to you. The Page of Swords, she's talking to young people, young progressives. And the Devil, because the point is to move away from what was, to break the chains of the standard approach, the elitist approach, the taking the high moral ground approach that has been a hallmark of the Democratic platform, that she's recognizing this is about breaking away from that. Page of Swords, she is recognizing also the youth vote. Many younger voters were not swayed by some of her arguments because they saw her too aligned with the establishment. So she's talking to younger people like Mom Donnie, like AOC. We understand, I saw some reporting that she also, Kamala Harris met with AOC in April in Chicago at a Power Rising event, okay? So Kamala's out here talking to younger people, Page of Swords, and Eight of Wands, ready to move on it. She understands. Now, that leads me to the second part of the reading I wanted to do for you today. We're going to have to deal with this, you all. This notion of anti-Semitism and trying to paint this progressive movement within the Democratic Party as being that it is anti-Israel or anti-Jewish. Yesterday, I saw a brief clip of none other than Jake Tapper doing Jake Tapper things, having a conversation with Dan Goldman out of New York, who said, Dan Goldman just came out and said, oh, anti-Semitism is becoming normalized. Now, there's also, we understand, there are progressives, including Democratic Socialists, who are saying, no, we have got to get real about this, you all. We gotta get, we gotta take the temperature down and understand that what is, comments about the Israeli regime, Netanyahu, the government, versus sentiments towards the Jewish people as a whole are two entirely different things. And what I'm wondering are the socialists going to be able to make that clear? Are they going to be able to sway and bring more independents and Jewish people into the fold, understanding that this is not about any normalization of anti-Semitism, and not buying into that propaganda? Is that effort going to fail? Especially when you got people like Jake Tapper on CNN giving a platform to this Dan Goldman. And that's just the start of it. You're going to see more. Spirit. We have the Tower. There's going to be a breakthrough. A breaking apart. Understanding that this standard, if you don't buy into absolute unmitigated support for Israel, and meaning the government, meaning Netanyahu, meaning never-ending military, interventions and not interventions, declarations of war, and what's being done in Gaza, what has been done in Gaza, then you are anti-Semitic. The Tower says that's breaking apart, even within Jewish communities, especially here in the United States. Page of Cups. People want healing. They want support. Three of Swords. Tired of the fighting. Tired of the dissension. And the Hermit. Learning more about the truth of the matter and an analysis, being able to present and articulate an analysis of a platform by progressive Dems that is inclusive and that is critical of Netanyahu and that regime, and moves being made militarily by Israel, but nothing to do with, and a very separate and apart from, respect for and support for the Jewish people. So there's that Three of Swords, the Hermit, really digging in on that, and that becoming a detailed and analytical issue that's going to have to be dealt with. And then we have the Page of Cups. I love that because it feels like as an energy, a Page of Cups is a softening. It's a recognition that we are better together. And here comes the Hierophant: government, tradition, support, establishment, what we learn from one another. And the Empress. And that, I feel like that ties back to Kamala. I always used to pull, especially when she was running, I always used to pull the Empress for her. I think this ties back to the first part of the reading, where Kamala Harris is going to be a major voice in being able to articulate that to a voting public that will receive it from her as a former vice president of the United States, an incredibly savvy political figure, not just up and coming rising grassroots a la Zoran Mamdani, right? Someone who is not at, people are still getting interested in him and certainly recognizing the ripple effect that he's having. But the Empress being Kamala, speaking to these things with experience and a level of authority, and a level of appeal that's going to be very instrumental in this healing Page of Cups, and in bringing more Jewish people, again, especially here in the United States, into the fold. And the Queen of Wands, I think that's AOC coming in on it as well. She is an incredible communicator as well, as many of you know. So I think she's going to be articulating that as, don't buy into the hype that when you see progressive candidates on the rise and the Democratic Socialist movement, growing within the United States, and as a really a necessary part of change that's happening right now, that means people are turning away from you. This so-called normalization of anti-Semitism that Goldman tried to put out there, thanks to Jake Tapper. And the Five of Swords, people are not going to believe it. Now, I will say with the Five of Swords and the Three of Wands, so this is an opportunity to grow the messaging in a way that lands. It's not just trying to pacify people, and it's not just a way of trying to coddle up to potential voters, but it's real. It's a real thing. It's a genuine desire to let's have the difficult conversations so that we can get clarity in that Five of Swords and that Three of Wands, because once we get clarity, we can come together collectively and grow and build networks and organizations around the nation to support dismantling this regime and what's being done to this country. And the Fool, okay, I'm good. I hope you are too. This is a new relationship that is going to develop over time. Progressives understand that while there has to be, and it looks like Kamala, we're going to see more of this from her, there has to be a stance against Netanyahu and what has become genocide, what has perhaps been genocide in Gaza for a very long time. That the truth of that is what it is, but that does not equate to anti-Semitism or normalization of anti-Semitism in no way, right? And I know people like Bernie Sanders, who is Jewish, if I'm not mistaken, has tried to make that distinction. But again, this is about a growing momentum among a large and increasing crop of candidates, and it's looking like led into at least to some extent by Kamala Harris 2.0 or 3.0, however you want to say it. Interesting piece too, I just want to mention quickly. I had forgotten this. In 2020, apparently Kamala Harris had quite a a more, not to this extent in terms of progressivism, but she had a more progressive platform. She was very much in favor of Bernie Sanders at that time with Medicare for all. She was. And then in 2024, I think because of so much incredible pressure that she was under to some extent to promote and support Biden's legacy, Joe Biden's legacy, that she backed away from that progressive stance. And many have said that hurt her. Her stance on Gaza, or avoidance of that issue to some extent, was harmful. And so we see her out here making some moves. We'll see what happens and comes out of that. Last thing I wanted to look at, y'all. So we're understanding that the House, we pretty certain Spirit has said, and many of you are feeling as well, that the House is done. I think there's just no way, no how the Dems won't take the House one way or another. But the Senate is also in play, and we've been hearing about that increasingly. There are seats. We got Tallarico out of Texas, Roy Cooper out of North Carolina. Plattner giving it to Collins in Maine, but we also have Iowa, probably stick with Republican, Ohio, question mark, and Alaska. So there's some really pivotal Senate races that are coming up that could tilt, narrow margin, very narrow margin, but could tilt the Senate as well and hand the Senate over to the Democrats. Now, what does that mean? Chuck Schumer? So Liz Warren has come out, and there is this increasing division between Liz Warren, who is the voice of the progressives within the Senate, and Chuck Schumer, who is all tied up in that corporate money, right? I want to ask Spirit, and I'll ask it. I don't want to assume. AOC's coming for I just said it. I think AOC is coming for Chuck Schumer in 2028. That's a ways down the road, but I think if that election was held today, oh my goodness, can you imagine the point spread? It would be like, I feel certain it would be like 70% AOC to maybe 30% for Chuck Schumer. Spirit, is AOC going to run? Is she gonna take run against Schumer for his seat in 2028? Let's start with that. Is AOC going to run against him? The Ten of Pentacles, the King of Cups, that's him. He thinks he's got the money tied up. The King of Swords, that's somebody helping him. Nine of Swords, he is stressed to the max. This is Schumer. He knows that if an election were held today, AOC would wipe him out. He knows that. Ten of Pentacles is the money. He still believes that the money can win. I mean, and I guess why wouldn't he, right? That's what's been doing the job for him so far. But now so I think this is a yes. We are going to see AOC come against him. The Empress, she's another one that I get the Empress for. Empress or the Queen of Wands, because she got that fire. But she's coming. And I always think Kamala, her association with Kamala is going to be beneficial to AOC. Because, again, this is her rising and her career being catapulted. And so she's going to have that support. But this is also her elevation. Going from, okay, thank you, Spirit. Going from a more standard archetype like a Queen of Wands to an elevated major arcana archetype like an Empress. Bigger leader, bigger stage. She's coming, and she will win it. We'll get into that. We got plenty of time, but she will win it. Here's what I'm wondering. Are we going to see the dark money aspect or the corporate interest aspect that Chuck Schumer represents, and Liz Warren in relation to the midterms, more immediate progressive candidates? Is Chuck Schumer actively working against the progressives to sabotage? Four of Pentacles, try to take their money, or again, he thinks money is going to get him. And the Ten of Cups. So Schumer is, he wants to believe that what he knows works. And that is to continue to outmaneuver this new crop of folk that are coming through. The Four of Pentacles, though, is showing that Schumer's money is not going to do the corporate interest money is not going to do what it used to do. And that leads me to my final question, which is I am seeing increasingly, you all, Spirit's been giving me this midterm. These midterm elections are going to be a referendum on dark money versus grassroots organizing and social media. We've seen some races already where the well-funded, look at how, Zoran Mondani got in over Cuomo, right, in New York. Dark money ain't getting it all the time. Dark money can do what it can do. And even if it ain't dark, whatever. The corporate interest money, we'll call it that. That this is not the be-all and end-all of how you win elections any longer. Spirit, is this midterm going to change fundamentally the financial component? Is it going to diminish the power of corporate interests one way or another? Because they're not going to keep spending their money for nothing. They spend that money because they want the win, and they usually have been getting the win. They've been getting what they want. Then they buy the candidates, right? And then when they win office, they got, they got what they want. Spirit, is this going to be a fundamental change? Ace of Cups right out the deck, y'all. And if you've been with me, you know how I am with my aces are an absolute yes from Spirit. And I love that it came in cups. This is something to celebrate. It is something that is the will of the people. It is a different way of and the star didn't even have to work hard for it. Absolutely. The will of the people, a shining light going forward in how politics is run. And I do think there's going to be some congressional changes, like laws that are changed, even though we know the Supreme Court, SCOTUS did his thing with campaign money and so that's no limits to what the billionaires can spend to influence corporate politics. But the people got something else to say about that. Ace of Cups and the Star. They're going to this and the High Priestess. Listen, you can't stop it, and they're not even going to see it coming. That's what I think the High Priestess is. She adds that element of mystery. There's so much arrogance among many of these corporate interests and these PACs, these super PACs, that they really do believe that their ability to continue to sway and have influence is basically untouchable. And the High Priestess is saying, no, you don't understand. The people, the star, are who's really in charge. And this grassroots, we remember grassroots door-to-door campaigning. We remember that was a huge feature in Zoran Mamdani's appeal, that he walked the streets of New York and all the boroughs. Spirit, will we win? Will the progressive movement overtake moneyed interests by virtue of a grassroots approach and social media? The Tower, tear it down. And the Moon, all this major arcana energy, which I love because it says this is a real thing, y'all. The train has left the station and is cruising. All right, the Tower, breaking apart what has been done. There will be a lot of these candidates, progressive candidates, who are going to absolutely point the finger at funding and at the dark money and at the influence, the undue influence, and how we got here as a result of that money, and the Moon shining light on it, shedding light on and illuminating the harm that this has caused. So SCOTUS can issue all the rulings they want. The people are and strength. I'm just going to put the deck down. Strength. Power to the people, overcoming through love. This is, yes, we will see more protests necessarily. We will see more, fire in the bellies of a lot of you out there for sure. But what really sways this from a spiritual perspective is love, and that people are simply done with feeling angry and anxious and taken advantage of and disregarded. When Trump sat up there and said the housing bill issue was a yawn, a total yawn, you know, while you making plans for your Qatari jet and your funky pool and nobody even wants to go touch, you know, and your golden arches, while you go out today, I understand Trump is headed to, where is he headed today? He's going to be with Doug Burgum out in North Dakota for the launching of, for the July 4th weekend, for the launching of the Theodore Roosevelt Presidential Library in North Dakota. And that's because, why? Because all the hoopla that he said that was going to happen in D.C., and people have been showing D.C. is basically empty. The mall is basically empty. It ain't happening. So he's going to go where he thinks people are. You know, Doug Burgum said, okay, come on to North Dakota. We promise you we're going to have some people here for the opening of this Theodore Roosevelt Library. So he's out here just doing whatever he can to get in front of crowds that are going to be clapping, not for him. Anyway, all right, I hope that was helpful, you all. Take really good care of yourselves out there, and I will see you back on Friday. Chin up. Look, even if you have to lean on it and to push it, right? Chin up, shoulders back. Breathe. Sky above you, earth beneath you, solid. All right, I'll talk to you a little later. Be safe out there. Bye.